Welcome to Facts on Fire, Fire Prevention Series. I'm your host, Chris Spurlock, and today we'll be discussing fire protection equipment. Statistics show that approximately every 28 minutes someone is injured in a fire and every 170 minutes someone dies in a house fire. In addition, fire costs almost $6 billion in property damage annually. We may think that fire will never happen in our home, but if it does, are we prepared? Today we'll be looking at products that alert you to fires and fire-related hazards and help you to bring them under control. The fire protection equipment we'll be discussing are smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, sprinkler systems, and fire extinguishers. These devices have been made to save lives, yours possibly. It's up to you to know how to properly maintain them and use them.
It takes just minutes for a fire to race through a room. Fortunately, this is just a demonstration. But the fire in Betty Roach's house was real, set accidentally by her grandson when he was playing with a lighter.
I had a lighter and I had a piece of paper. I took the piece of paper, I lit it, and I put it on the ashtray. And the ashtray fell.
When I got in the hall, smoke alarm went off. And when I got upstairs, he was trying to put the fire out. The fire caught the floor and it went under the bed. And by that time, it just got away from me. You can't imagine when I got in that hallway and I heard that smoke alarm go off, how I felt, because I knew they was upstairs. If it wasn't for the smoke alarms, I could have lost my kids.
Let's take a spot quiz to test your smoke detector knowledge. Why is it important to have smoke detectors in your home? What if I'm hearing impaired? How many smoke detectors do you need? Where's the best place to position a smoke detector? How do you keep your smoke detector in good working order? It's the middle of the night and your smoke detector goes off. What do you do? Jot down your answers and stay tuned to find out the facts on fire.
More than half of all fatal home fires strike at night when people are usually asleep. The sooner you wake up once a fire starts, the greater your chance of escaping and surviving. Smoke detectors can provide that wake-up call. Joining me in the studio is Fire Chief Jeff Smith. Chief Smith has 15 years in the fire service and is a fire chief for a volunteer fire department. Chief Smith, have you seen fires in which lack of smoke detectors has caused the loss of life?
Yes, we have.
And just how important are smoke detectors?
Smoke detectors are very important. Statistics have showed that by putting smoke detectors in your home increases your chance of surviving a house fire by up to 50%. You know, it's important that we be alerted as quickly as possible to get out of a house fire, because as we know, in just a matter of minutes, a house can be fully involved in a fire. Smoke is also a problem. That's the reason we have the smoke detector to alert us that we do have a possible problem. Smoke is dense and dark, okay, and then it will also, has been known that sleep puts you in a deeper sleep and never wake up. Most fatalities in a fire are not because of the flames themselves or by the smoke. So it's very important that we be alerted as quick as possible and get out of a house as quick as possible.
So how do smoke detectors work?
Well, basically, Chris, the smoke detectors here has some sensor chambers in here, and you see these vents on the outside. When the smoke enters, the detector will set off an alarm to alert us that we have possibly smoke in our home.
Okay, so now we know the importance of having a smoke detector. Let's talk about purchasing them. What kind of smoke detectors do we have out there?
Basically, we'll have the two types that most people purchase in their home would be the battery operated and the electrical, the ones that you actually plug into a receptacle in your home.
Okay. And what about the number of detectors or locations of detectors?
Well, you need one per level of your home. You need one outside your sleeping area. You recommend that you sleep with your doors closed, so if you sleep with your doors closed, you need to have one inside your sleeping area. You could put one in your living area, since statistics show most house fires doesn't start in where you sleep, is in living quarters or kitchen or somewhere else there. So it's important to have one in that area. Also, do not need one close to a kitchen or a bathroom, anywhere where it might set off the nuisance alarms.
Okay, and let's say we've got young children or elderly or handicapped personnel. Is there any special considerations for location of detectors in those areas or to protect those people?
Main thing on children is to make sure that they can hear the detectors. And what we got to look at, we have teenagers at home with young children that all sleep with the TV on or listen to radio all the time, and they might not can hear the smoke detector. In that case, say you might need to put one inside their room also. But this has happened before. We've actually tested smoke detectors before with children in the room, and they never would wake up because they had their radio on. So it's important that we do that at nighttime while they're asleep. Elderly people, there's different types of detectors on the market. They have a vibrating model, or they have like a flashing red light, and then also there's monitored systems that would help them be aware that they had problems in their home.
And Chief, wouldn't those flashing and vibrating alarms be good for persons who are hearing impaired as well?
Yes, they would.
Okay, good. Well, now that we've got the right number of detectors, let's talk about location. Where will we locate them?
Well, first of all, we know smoke rises to the top of your ceiling, so we want to install our smoke detectors high. If you install one on the wall, you can go 4 to 12 inches from the ceiling to install one. If you want from the ceiling, you need to come 4 inches over from the wall to install your detector. If you have stairways in your house, you need to install it up your stairway, one of the highest points in your stairway, because that's going to act like a tunnel. Your smoke is going to go up your stairway on it. So, and you do not need to put one near a window or a furnace or maybe a vent on your air conditioner, anything there might be an airflow that could possibly keep the smoke away from the detector.
Okay, good. And what about maintenance? What type of maintenance is involved with the smoke detectors?
Yeah, my main thing maintenance is, if you have a battery powered one, is make sure you change the battery on them. I mean, that's one of the statistics show that 1 out of 5 of every smoke detector in a home is not working properly, and mostly that's because of the battery's dead or been taken out. So it's important that we change the battery out at least once a year. When we change our time, that's usually a good time we recommend to do it. Also, you need to, I showed you once before on the sensors on it, you need to also twice a year dust those sensors to keep the dust off the sensors so they work properly. You need to always put new batteries in. Never take one out of a radio to replace it just because one is going. And they all have nuisance alarms too on it. So, and like I say, just because the nuisance alarm goes off doesn't necessarily mean you need to take the battery out. Some of the newer type smoke detectors have a safety device in them, so when the battery is pulled out, you cannot put it back onto the wall, which is something good to do on it. You never need to paint your detectors. If you're changing the paint in your house, don't change your smoke detector. You need to leave it, take it down, and put it back up. Also, if one's over 10 years old, it needs to be replaced also.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so we've purchased, installed, and maintained our smoke detectors. Now, what do we do when we hear this? Stay tuned.
Did you know that fires consume oxygen as they burn, feeding themselves but suffocating you? The air we breathe normally contains 21% oxygen, but in a fire, that level drops rapidly, starving your brain and your body. If the oxygen level drops below 17%, it becomes difficult to think clearly or even move. Smoke detectors alert you quickly to the presence of a fire, giving you time to think and escape. So take a deep breath and remember, smoke detectors save lives.
Welcome back. Imagine you're sound asleep when suddenly you're awakened by the sound of the smoke alarm going off. How about it, Chief? What should we do?
First of all, it's going to be dark. We need to get out of the bed. We stay low on the ground and crawl to our door. Check our door, make sure it's not hot. We'll check with the back of our hand. If it is, you had to have your alternative route for your home escape plan, which we all need to have a home escape plan. We need to practice it. Okay, we need to also have 2 locations to go out, and we need to make sure we all meet at that location and have a neighbor call 911 and get out and stay out.
Okay, what about if we're on the 2nd floor or our bedroom happens to be on the 2nd story?
Well, there's ladders available, safety ladders available. There's a couple different styles of like portable ladders you can keep in a closet that will actually hook onto your windowsill and you can climb out. And there are also portable stationary ones that actually bolt to the floor in a small box, and you can just pick it up and just roll it out the window and escape that way.
Now, do burglar bars present any specific problems or special problems for the fire department?
Yes, this could cause a problem for firefighters. Firefighters need an extra way out too. Sometimes we might go in the front door looking for something, we get in trouble, we need a second way out. And mostly the window is our only way out. So with burglar bars on the windows, it could definitely present a problem for a fireman. As far as the home occupants themselves, the burglar bars are good for safety and security, but they also could hinder them trying to get out of their house in case of a fire. because the only way out in most cases in your bedroom is out the door or window. So if your doorknob is hot, that means you've got fire outside your door. The only way out is your window. And they have different styles of quick releases you can put on your burglar bars now, so it might be a good idea to retrofit your bars with those. It might help you get out of your house if you had to.
Good information. Thanks, Chief. So we've seen that even though smoke detectors can give us a warning, it's still up to you to get yourself and your family out of danger. We'll be back next to review our answers to the spot quiz.
More than 4,000 Americans die each year in fires. Nearly 80% of those happen in the home. That's why it's so important to have working smoke alarms. They can double your chances of surviving a fire. Place a smoke alarm on each level of your house. Check smoke alarms monthly to make sure they work. Change the batteries twice a year. And teach children what to do when they hear the alarm sound. Keep your home safe. Don't play with fire.
Now it's time to review our spot quiz. Why is it important to have smoke detectors in your home? Fires spread quickly, creating poisonous gases and smoke as they burn. Studies show that individuals caught in a flaming fire have an average of 3 minutes to escape or perish. Smoke alarms give you that time to escape. What if I'm hearing impaired? Smoke alarms that flash both indoors and outside or vibrate are available for the hearing impaired. Also consider using a monitored alarm service. How many smoke detectors do you need? You should have at least one smoke detector on every level of your home, including basements and attics, and inside the bedroom if you sleep with the door closed. The National Fire Protection Association recommends sleeping with closed bedroom doors to slow down approaching flames and fumes during a fire. Where's the best place to position a smoke detector? Smoke detectors mounted on the wall should be installed 4 to 12 inches from the ceiling. Detectors mounted on the ceiling should be at least 4 inches from the wall. How do you keep your smoke detector in good working order? Replace batteries in your smoke detector at least once a year. People often choose a birth date or daylight savings time as the time to put in new batteries. Never pull batteries from detectors for other devices in the home, and never paint over a smoke alarm. It's the middle of the night and your smoke detector goes off. What do? You should get out of the house right away using your prearranged escape plan. If your door is warm to the touch, use your alternate exit. Stay low to the ground, and once outside, gather at a designated meeting spot for the family. Contact the fire department and stay out until the fire crew tells you that it's okay to return. Did you know that 2/3 of home fires that kill children occur in homes without a working smoke alarm? When fire breaks out, you and your young children only have seconds to escape heat, black smoke, and deadly gases. By installing and maintaining working smoke alarms, families can dramatically increase their chances of surviving a fire. Smoke alarms are a minor investment to protect yourself and your family's future.
The majority of fatal home fires happen at night, and the smell of smoke won't always wake you up. In fact, smoke and poisonous gases can put you into a deeper sleep. Smoke detectors can wake you up in time to escape, cutting your chances of dying almost in half. So buy them, maintain them, because one day they may give you the most important wake-up call of your life.
Around 5:30, 6-ish in the morning, my girlfriend and I woke up and we had incredibly bad headaches.
I started rubbing my head to relieve the pressure. That didn't work, and my boyfriend got up to go to the kitchen to get some medicine.
And while I was getting the medicine, so my girlfriend walked straight into a wall and collapsed. So then I unlocked the door and drug her outside and then called 911.
The volunteer fire department came. They were the first responders, and they put me on oxygen, and the ambulance arrived. Not too long after that, I was feeling really nauseous. My head was hurting really bad.
When we got to the hospital, they had put us in separate rooms in the ER and gave us separate doctors to kind of give an objective opinion.
They took our arterial blood gases, which is, they go down to the artery to get the blood. And that's the only way they can check your carbon monoxide levels.
They said my number was 25% in carbon monoxide, and my girlfriend's number was 20%. They said it should be somewhere around 4.
The only way you can get it back down is by staying on the oxygen and rest. Well, we stayed on the oxygen for about 8 hours in the hospital.
After it got down to below 4%, they were ready to discharge us.
The firefighters determined the cause of the leak was from a cracked heat exchanger. It was an old heater. They tested it and it came out to be about 140 ppms, which was pretty dangerous.
And that day, we got our parents to go buy us some carbon monoxide detectors, and we installed one in our bedroom and one in the hallway. And the next week, we had got a brand new heater put in.
My father is a police officer, so he's very adamant about the carbon monoxide detectors, and he had mentioned it, but it was only the second night we stayed here, so we figured we're gonna get it done. We're just moving, we're getting the furniture in. I guess we didn't feel it was that important. You know, you don't expect something, a freak accident like that to happen.
When you think of fire protection, you think of avoiding smoke and flames. But there's an invisible gas known as carbon monoxide that's created by burning fuel that can cause serious risk. Carbon monoxide detectors, also known as CO detectors, can sniff out trouble.
Let's check our carbon monoxide detector knowledge. What is carbon monoxide and what makes it so dangerous? What are the 3 primary symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning? What can produce carbon monoxide in your home? How many CO detectors should you have and where should you place them? What should you do if your CO detector goes off? Take your best guess and jot down your answers. We'll review this spot quiz later.
You can see fire and you can smell smoke, but carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless, tasteless, and toxic. Joining me again is Chief Smith. Chief, what exactly is carbon monoxide and what makes it so dangerous?
Well, like you said, it's a byproduct of combustion. It's colorless, it's odorless, and it's tasteless, and it's toxic. It gets in our bloodstream by the red blood cells absorb the carbon monoxide quicker than oxygen. So over a period of time, small concentrations built up, and it could be a dangerous situation to a person who's around it.
And what are some of the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning?
So dizziness, lightheaded, nausea, and kind of like a flu-like symptoms. Under heavier concentrations, you could have even a shortness of breath, or it could lead up to death.
Where might we find carbon monoxide in our homes?
Anything that has like flame related. You'd be under a gas furnace, or it could be a gas water heater, a gas stove, a fireplace, anything like that that have any fire and combustion on it.
Now, because we've got those appliances in our home, does that mean we're constantly being exposed to carbon monoxide?
Yes, we have constantly exposed to small quantities of carbon monoxide. If you have inadequate ventilation or a faulty appliance, that usually could be a culprit of having carbon monoxide poisoning.
Let's talk about carbon monoxide detectors and how they operate.
Well, carbon monoxide detectors pick up the parts per million of the carbon monoxide in the air. Detector goes off when you hit 70 parts per million, which is good. Your body has 70 parts per million is about 10%, a little less than 10% in your body, which that's before you start feeling these symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. So when the detector goes off, normally you have time to evacuate or get out of your house to determine what your problem is.
So how many carbon monoxide detectors should we have in our home?
Basically, you put them the same as your smoke detectors, but you also need to put one where there's a major gas appliance. Do not need to place it within 5 feet. It needs to be over 5 feet of the appliance.
So would the location be similar to smoke detectors?
Yes, when you need to look at your manufacturer's instructions when you go to put one up. Also, you need to mount them high in a ceiling. And also, you need to put one, like we said again, not closer than 5 feet to appliance.
And what should we do if the carbon monoxide detector alarm goes off?
Well, first of all, we need to see if anyone shows any signs of carbon monoxide poisoning. Whether you get headache, dizziness, or nausea. And so if it does show poisoning, you have to get everyone to leave the house, leave the doors open, and call 911. If no one has symptoms of CO2 poisoning, you need to open all your doors, cut off the appliances or your cooking appliances, whatever you have going, and call a technician to come check your system out.
So if we have signs or symptoms of poisoning, we want to get medical attention?
Yes, immediately.
Okay, thank you. Great tips. Thanks, Chief. We'll be back in a minute.
Did you know, according to the National Safety Council, in the year 2000, over 300 gas poisoning deaths occurred in homes? Besides keeping fuel-burning appliances properly maintained, never use charcoal grills inside for cooking, and never keep a gas oven door open to heat your home. Save your barbecuing for outside, and save your oven heat for your dinner. So let's find out how much we've learned about CO and CO detectors. What is carbon monoxide and what makes it so dangerous? Carbon monoxide is a byproduct of combustion that is absorbed by red blood cells quicker than oxygen. If too much carbon monoxide gets into your bloodstream, it can damage tissues and eventually cause suffocation. What are the 3 primary symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning? The 3 primary symptoms of CO poisoning are severe headache, dizziness, and nausea. Mild CO poisoning feels like the flu, but more serious poisoning leads to difficulty breathing and even death. What can produce carbon monoxide in your home? Any fuel-burning system in your home, such as a fuel-fired furnace, gas water heater, gas stove, gas dryer, fireplace or wood stove, has the potential to create dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. Faulty appliances and inadequate ventilation are the usual culprits for dangerous CO buildup. How many CO detectors should you have, and where should you place them? At a minimum, a single detector should be placed on each sleeping floor, with an additional detector in the area of any major gas-burning appliance. What should you do if your CO detector goes off? If anyone shows signs of CO poisoning, leave the building right away, leaving doors open as you go. Use a cell phone or a neighbor's phone to report the CO alarm and get immediate medical attention. If no one has symptoms of CO poisoning, open windows and doors, shut down gas-powered heating and cooking equipment, and call a qualified technician to inspect for leaks.
Carbon monoxide is sometimes called the silent killer. CO detectors can break that silence. Do some research to see if you could benefit from a CO detector in your home and learn how to keep CO from sneaking in.
A residential sprinkler system is a system that is put into a home to give the occupants time to get out of the house. It's not meant like a commercial system is to actually suppress the fire totally. It generally suppresses the fire enough for the occupants to get out. With smoke alarms, you don't want them in areas where you're cooking or where you're going to have some heat or you might have a little smoke. So you want to keep those out of the kitchen. But with sprinklers, you want one that's placed somewhere near your range because once it's ignited, that's the first thing you want to put out. I think that the primary benefit of having a sprinkler system in your home is the peace of mind that knowing that your family is not going to perish in a fire. Secondarily, I think the protection of your property is also a very valuable reason to have a sprinkler system also. And on top of that, you can get a discount to your homeowner's insurance. The system that I have in my home, I got because working with the fire marshal's office in my 6 years there, dealing with statistics that I received from the fire departments, I've never seen a fatality that's occurred in a home that had sprinklers.
So you're thinking of adding on to your home or maybe even about building a new one. How would you like to help fireproof that structure? While a smoke alarm alerts you to a fire, an automatic sprinkler system uses the power of water to help attack and defeat fire.
Let's try some true and false questions about automatic sprinkler systems. True or false? Sprinklers add about 5% to the cost of building a home. True or false? A fire in one room can cause sprinklers to go off throughout the house. True or false? Sprinklers create about the same amount of water damage as firefighters would. True or false? If you have a smoke alarm, there's never a reason to have a sprinkler system. And finally, true or false? Sprinkler systems protect property, but offer no added protection to people. Take your best guess and jot down your answers.
So you're thinking, sure, automatic sprinkler systems can work, but they'll end up costing me a fortune for installation and from water damage. How about that, Chief? Will automatic sprinkler systems end up costing me a fortune and leaving me in debt from water damage?
No, actually, a sprinkler system will actually not hurt yourself on water very much, because when we look at C, there's a fusible link here over the fire. When it gets so hot, this link will break and it sets off your sprinkler. Only this sprinkler here would go off until the temperature gets hot enough to activate another sprinkler. The average sprinkler probably would cover 10 to 12 feet radius in our home, so one in a bedroom would probably work. So, and also, like say, an average sprinkler will put out from 8 to 24 gallons of water per minute, and a tack line will put out from 25 gallons to 125 gallons of water a minute. So you can see this one sprinkler will do a lot less water damage than a tack line from a fire hose.
So it's not like we see in the movies or on television where one sprinkler activates and the entire room is flooded by multiple sprinklers activating at the same time from, say, one small single fire?
No, they would only go off where needed. Wherever the temperature was the hottest, they would make that link activate. That was the only one that would come apart. So normally you might have one or two in a building to go off, and it possibly could contain the fire and wouldn't spread anymore. It would help save your home from further water damage.
And what about the cost, Jeff?
Look at about 1% of the total building cost, or a good way to look at it would be the cost of putting carpet in your home. You could probably put in a sprinkler system in your house also.
And how about retrofitting as opposed to new construction? Is there a major difference between the cost of retrofitting an existing home and possibly the cost of having a system put in a brand new home as you're doing construction?
Well, it's going to be more expensive when you go to after your home is already built. I would say about $1. We said $1 a square foot, probably might be up to $1.50 a square foot when you go into an existing home and redoing your sprinkler system.
So probably less than the cost of a new boat in the garage, I would say.
Yes.
Okay, and what about design? Are there any major differences between, say, commercial sprinklers and residential sprinklers?
Yes, most of your commercial sprinklers are like we looked at earlier, and they have a lot of recessed sprinklers now that go in our commercial home, in our homes and everything, where you actually can't see the sprinkler. It's on a spring-loaded system where the temperature gets up to a certain temperature, it melts the link and it falls down and your sprinkler is activated.
And what about obstructing a sprinkler head? I can recall from my days in college, people would hang stuff from the sprinkler head like clothing. They would stack books up real high. And I've also seen, unfortunately, in some commercial buildings and public places where stuff has been stacked up very near this head. Is that a good thing?
No, that's a bad thing. You had to have a certain area for your sprinkler to work on. If you got it obstructed with clothes or stacked up high with books, then your sprinkler will not do the job it's designed to do.
Okay, so now we see that they're not unreasonably priced, and we see that they can protect property, but can they protect lives?
Yes. There's statistics that show that there has never been a multiple loss of life in a fully sprinkled building. Okay, also, if you have a smoke detector combo on it, it should also increase your possibility of getting out alive up to 50%. It reduces the dangers to firefighters, because if a smoke detector and the sprinkler system is working properly, it should be combined to one area. That way that would save the firefighters time from going and looking into the fire. So definitely it would be save loss of life.
Great information. Thanks, Chief. We'll be right back.
Did you know that sprinkler systems have been around since the late 1800s? Although they were first used in commercial settings like businesses and industry, sprinklers are now affordable for use in private homes. They add about the same cost as a new carpet to your home, and many insurance companies will provide discounts if you have them installed. Check with your insurance agent. Protect your home and your wallet. Let's find out what you now know about sprinklers that you didn't know before. True or false? Sprinklers add about 5% to the cost of building a home. False. The installation of fire sprinklers in new residential construction is estimated to make up around 1% of the total building cost. And depending upon the type you choose, that price may vary. True or false? A fire in one room can cause sprinklers to go off throughout the house. False. Only those sprinklers near a fire discharge. Your entire house will not be flooded due to a small fire in a confined area. True or false? Sprinklers create about the same amount of water damage as firefighters would. False. Sprinklers control fires quickly and efficiently, with less water damage than is common from fire department hoses. In addition, they prevent the fire from spreading to other rooms, further reducing property damage. True or false? If you have a smoke alarm, there's never a reason to have a sprinkler system. False. While smoke alarms will alert you to the presence of a fire, sprinklers will extinguish a growing fire, which is important to protect those physically unable to escape on their own, such as the elderly or small children. And finally, true or false? Sprinkler systems protect property, but offer no added protection to people. False. The combination of automatic sprinklers and early warning systems in all buildings and residences could reduce overall injuries, loss of life, and property damage by at least 50%.
Automatic sprinkler systems provide additional protection to smoke alarms while adding minimal new cost to home construction. So if you're adding on or building a new home, consult with your contractor about automatic sprinkler systems, your built-in firefighter.
We responded to a house fire where an occupant was cooking in the kitchen. The cooking material on the stove boiled over and caught on fire. This person grabbed the extinguisher that was in the kitchen. She was unable to get the safety tab off the extinguisher, so she was running around the house looking for a pair of scissors to cut it off. The fire at that time, she said, was very small. She could have put it out. She eventually gave up and left the home. The kitchen was severely damaged and did quite a bit of damage to the home by not knowing how to handle a fire extinguisher.
The biggest problem we see with occupants and fire extinguishers is where they store them at. Most people store their fire extinguishers near their stove or near their hot water heater or their dryer. Well, if you've got a fire on your stove, are you going to be able to get to your fire extinguisher to use it? We've seen plenty of house fires where the front end of the kitchen or the utility room was consumed with a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall. They just could not get to the fire extinguisher.
Portable fire extinguishers can save lives and property by putting out small fires or containing them until the fire department arrives. But did you know that not all fire extinguishers are created equal? Let's take a spot quiz and see what else you may not know.
Let's test your fire extinguisher IQ. What are the 4 classes of fire, and why is that important to know? How many fire extinguishers do I need? What's the best location for a fire extinguisher in your home? If a small fire breaks out at home, grab the nearest fire extinguisher and then do what? Do you need to involve the fire department if you have a small fire at home? Keep watching. We'll review the answers later.
These hands have done so much in life. They can do so much for life by practicing fire safety. Make your home safe from fire. Learn how to use your fire extinguisher. Plan and practice escape routes. And install and maintain smoke alarms on every level in your home, so you'll be able to give others a hand. Prevent fire, save lives. Go to our website for more information on fire safety. A message from the U.S. Fire Administration.
We've seen how smoke alarms can alert you to a fire and how sprinkler systems can attack them. But what about those small fires that break out in an area without an automatic sprinkler system? Should we step in and play firefighter? Joining me again is Fire Chief Jeff Smith. Chief Smith, how important is it to have a portable fire extinguisher in our home?
It's very important. More than 80% of our fires occur at our homes. So if a homeowner is properly trying to use a fire extinguisher, some of the smaller fires, which normally happen in the kitchen or other areas, they might contain or put out, which will save the homeowner a lot of property damage.
You mentioned properly trained. Now, when should the average person step in and play the role of firefighter with a portable fire extinguisher?
Well, the first thing we try to tell everybody, we want you to feel confident with a fire extinguisher before we use one. You know, if you're not confident using a fire extinguisher, we don't even want you to use it. We want you out of the house and call a professional. And you can leave your own judgment on there. If you have a lot of thick smoke rolling off your kitchen or general area like that, then it looks like it might be too big for you to handle. You need to call 911 and get out of the house.
So we've established how important it is to have a portable fire extinguisher. Now let's talk about how they operate.
We'll talk a little bit about the fire extinguisher, what it'll do. We have a fire triangle, which is a three-sided triangle. It has oxygen, heat, and fuel. And to have a fire, you have to have all three of these elements to make a fire happen. In order to put a fire out, you have to break one of the links of that triangle. You can take either one of those out. A good example we do when we're doing a class, we'll take a match, and we'll show this match being the fuel. Okay, then we would take that match, and we would strike the match. And as we strike the match, the friction would be our heat. And then when the fuel and the heat and the oxygen combine, we have a fire. And the only way to do away with that fire is to take one of them elements out of that triangle. And the way I do that, I take a cup of water and I stick that match in that water and I take the heat out. So when I take the heat out of that triangle, I break the triangle. So therefore the fire is out. It's basically the same way as the extinguisher. We're going to try to take the extinguisher and we're going to try to break one of these elements out of that fire to make the fire go out.
Okay, so basically just removing any of those three items in the triangle will suppress the fire. That's good. So now we've had a mini science lesson. Let's talk about how to choose a portable fire extinguisher.
Well, there's many different types of fire extinguishers. You have a 2.5 pound or a 5 pound, which normally you have in your households. You can all go up to 20 or 30 pound. It can go up to some you have to roll around on a cart. And naturally, we don't want anything that big in our kitchen or our house, so we want to stick with the smaller ones. The main thing to know about a fire extinguisher is to, whatever area you're going to put a fire extinguisher in your house, you need to make sure that it's capable of putting out that fire in that area.
So now it's probably a good time to talk about the four classes, or should I say 4 major classes of fire extinguishers.
Yes, we have 4 classes of fire extinguishers. We have a class A, we have a class B, we have a class C, and we have a class D fire.
Okay, now let's talk about them individually.
Okay, class A fire is ordinary combustibles. It would be wood, paper, basically like I say in the emblem with trash can. Okay, you have class B, which would be for flammable liquids, where you could find anything from paint thinners to grease or anything around your house would be a flammable liquid. You have a class C fire, which would be energized electrical equipment, which could be a toaster or a dryer, anything that has energized electricity would be considered a class C fire. And you have a class D fire, which would be combustible metals. That is mostly seen in an industrial environment, something that we won't see in a homeowner.
Chief, and I've heard recently about a class K fire, which fire extinguisher, which is used in heavy cooking environments. Would it be a good idea if someone's doing a lot of deep frying or a lot of cooking to go ahead and look into purchasing a class K extinguisher?
Yes, it would be a good idea to check into that.
Okay, Chief, now let's see how they're labeled.
Okay, as you look at the fire extinguisher we have here, they're labeled, this particular instance is an ABC type extinguisher, but also it has an icon on it. If you look at the icon on it, it's got the icon A, and you've got the trash can on fire, and if you look, you've got the gas can on fire, which would be a class B, and you have a electrical cord, which is energized electrical equipment, would be your C class fire on it. So anyway, you could look at this extinguisher, even if you didn't know what type of extinguisher it was, and you could look at that extinguisher and tell what this extinguisher was good for. A lot of your household extinguishers are a BC type, which would do a flammable liquid or electrical fire. But a BC type extinguisher will also put out an A extinguisher, A type, which would be wood, ordinary combustibles. So you can take a BC or ABC combination in your home and pretty much do anything you need to do in your house as far as small fires on it.
Now, what about kitchen grease fires? I've often heard people say that they'd rather not approach or try to fight a kitchen grease fire because of the damage that they can do. Is that a myth that you want to kind of dispel for us?
Well, that could basically do your technique on the fire. Grease fire is going to splatter. If you go on, walk up on it and hit it with that extinguisher on top of it, it's going to splatter grease and fire everywhere. The best thing to do is stand back 6 feet or better, whether recommend, and slowly walk to it and spray just a little bit at a time, and you're actually going to smother the fire is what you're going to do. If you just run up on it and just spray it all at one time, yes, you're going to splatter grease everywhere and have potential danger of spreading the fire.
And what about the size extinguisher we need for our home? How do we go about determining that?
Well, like I said, most of the time this is a 2.5 to a 3 pound extinguisher we have here. 2.5 to 5 is the most commonly used in the home because it's easy to handle. Like I said before, you know, you've got big heavy extinguishers, and you might have elderly people that can't pick up a 40, 50 pound extinguisher. So you need something small where you could easy to access to and easy to operate.
Now, I know in fire safety codes and standards, they've got recommendations for commercial establishments as far as the number and the location of the extinguishers. Do you have some tips for number and the location within our homes?
Well, the good place to be put it will make sure near an exit, because you want to make sure if you do have to use one, you have a way of getting out on an exit. Okay, you need to put one high, where keep it away from children. You need to put one where you can get to it very easily, and where if you have to, you fight a fire, you can always have your back to an exit door on it. You don't need to put one above the stove or around the stove anywhere, because normally that's where we normally go to is a kitchen fire. So it'd be bad to have a kitchen fire and you have to reach above the cabinet and try to get your extinguisher out. And we've had instances that's happened, you couldn't get to your extinguisher. So it's important your location where you put it. You don't need to put one around your dryer or anywhere like that in your house where something might catch on fire.
Okay, another little funny thing that I've always noticed about fire extinguishers is that the little blue diagrams, they mean the same in almost any language.
Yes. Anyone can look at the diagrams and tell exactly what that fire extinguisher is good for.
Thanks a lot, Chief. Well, we've learned what to look for when buying a fire extinguisher for our home. Coming up next, we'll discuss where's the best place to locate them in the house and how to use them properly.
Did you know a home fire can double in size every 30 seconds? In fact, it only takes 5 to 10 minutes for a 2-story home to become totally engulfed in flames. Having a fire extinguisher within easy reach can make all the difference. Make sure you know how to use them properly before a fire breaks out. There's no time to read instructions during an emergency.
Welcome back. Chief, I've heard it said several times that people refuse to use or they didn't use a portable fire extinguisher because they were having problems either releasing it from the mounting bracket or it was in a cabinet and they didn't know how to open it or what have you. Can you give us some instructions on releasing the holding mechanism and possibly removing it from the cabinet if it's locked in one?
Yes, and that goes back to feeling comfortable with the extinguisher. You need to be feel comfortable with the extinguisher you're using, especially in your home. You need to know how it operates, and the main thing to do is you need to actually use it other than pull the pin. You need to take this, and the particular fire extinguisher here just got a quick release bracket on it. Takes 2 bolts to mount it in and it just snaps loose is what it does. So, but it's important if you put it on the wall, if you don't ever take it down, you're not going to know how to use it. So every once in a while you need to try to take it off and see if you know how to work it properly. And also, if you're going to put one in the garage, something else we need to cover. You know, we all have our flammable liquids in our garage and everything. So if we put one in our garage, we need to put it outside our garage where if we walk in and have a fire in there, we won't have to worry about trying to get to the extinguisher and put out a fire where it's in the fire itself.
Okay, and how about multi-level homes? Say if we got 2, 3-story homes or buildings.
You need to put at least one per floor.
Before we get into how to use the extinguisher, let's talk about the parts, Jeff.
Okay, first thing we want to look at is a label. The label on the fire extinguisher will pretty much show us anything we need to know about it. Okay, you can go from what type it is to how to use it. So you should always need to read your label first, okay? Your handle, basically we're going to go up here to your handle. Your handle, basically, it won't discharge. It's basically just to hold your fire extinguisher, carry your fire extinguisher on it. The pressure gauge. The pressure gauge here has got red and green on it. It should always be in the green. If it ever gets out of the green, that means it needs to be replaced on it. You got your locking mechanism, which is this red pin-looking thing on most extinguishers. When you pull this pin, it's going to be ready to discharge on it. And the discharge lever is a lever right above the pin. When I pull this pin, it's this lever right up top. I'll grab the handle and put my thumb on here, and that will discharge a fire extinguisher. This particular extinguisher doesn't have a hose on it, but you'll see some of them, the larger, the 5 pounds, will actually have a hose and a nozzle on it. It's just different the way that different extinguishers are made.
Okay, so you're at home, you walk past a waste paper basket, and you notice fire or smoke. Do you just immediately grab an extinguisher and start spraying?
First of all, you need to determine, is the fire too big for me to handle? Okay, if you have a lot of heavy smoke coming out of there, you might be too large for you to handle, need to call the fire department. If you think you can handle the fire, first of all, you need to evacuate everybody out of your home. Okay, you need to have someone go to a neighbor and call 911. You need to get your fire extinguisher, make sure you have your back to and exit before you approach the fire, where if something happens, you have a way out. And as the instructions say, you need to be at least 6 feet from it from starting to attempt to fight a fire.
Okay, Chief. Everyone's cleared. You've called the fire department now. What's the proper way to actually use a portable fire extinguisher?
Okay, well, we're going to go with the acronym PASS, and it's also on your labels on the extinguisher also. PASS simply means you're going to pull your pin. You're going to pull your pin here. You're going to aim at the base of the fire, which the base of the fire is where the fuel's at, so you want to make sure you aim at the base of the fire. Okay, you want to squeeze the discharge handle, and then you want to sweep it. You want to sweep it back and forth, just like you're washing off your sidewalk at home, and gradually walk to it till the fire is extinguished.
Okay. Any other important points to mention?
Well, the only thing you know, this fire extinguisher will last about 8 seconds probably if you're fighting fire, so it's not very long. You need to make sure that you always stay with the fire, even if you have it out, until the fire department arrives, because it might reignite. And make sure you keep everyone out of the house until the fire department arrives, and to make sure everything's okay for you to re-enter your house.
What about training? Where can a person, say, just a common everyday individual, get training on using a portable fire extinguisher?
Your local fire department will be more than happy to show you how to use a fire extinguisher.
And is there any type of maintenance involved with extinguishers?
Basis, not a lot. This particular fire extinguisher here cannot be recharged because of the plastic handle. Anytime you see the plastic, it can't be recharged on it. So the gauge on it, as long as it stays in the green, it's okay to use. You need to make sure it's not any dents, or if it's stuck up in a cabinet somewhere, or in the garage, if it starts getting rust or corrosive on it, you need to replace it as soon as possible.
And Chief, what if we have to have the extinguisher reserviced, or we have to have maintenance done on it? Where can we take it to get that done?
The best place to take your extinguishers, any service, need to be done to your local fire department. They could tell you which direction you needed to go to help you get your fire extinguisher repaired or replaced.
Okay, now one more time, let's revisit that acronym, PASS, PASS. Exactly what does that stand for again?
Okay, we'll go over it again, okay? The PASS is pull your pin. You pull your pin. The A is aim at the base of the fire or the fuel at the fire. The other S is squeeze handle, which will be your discharge handle. And once you squeeze your handle, you will sweep it back and forth as you go to the base of the fire till the fire is extinguished.
That's very important to know, and the reason I asked to revisit it was because one morning on my way to work, I noticed a young lady standing outside our house, and she seemed to be in quite a dither. When I looked over towards her apartment, I could see smoke bellowing out of the front door, and immediately, just out of instinct, I reached down, and I carry a fire extinguisher in my car, believe it or not. I grabbed it, I went inside, and the kitchen was pretty well involved. And this fire extinguisher, similar to this, about the same size, I was able to knock down a pretty large fire with that small extinguisher, and I can basically attribute that to, first of all, knowing how to use the extinguisher properly. So yeah, you're absolutely right, that technique does work.
So it's very important to keep a fire extinguisher in your car.
Oh, yes it was that day.
Okay, I know a lot of our firemen carry fire extinguisher, portable fire extinguisher in their cars, and it's amazingly the amount of car fires they can get to on the side of the road or helping someone else out. You can actually extinguish a car fire. In your instance, you actually saved a person's house probably with this small extinguisher.
And once again, going back to knowing how to use the extinguishers, after the fire, I talked with the young lady, and she said she didn't know exactly where it was located in her house, so we actually located it for her. It was next to the stove, in the cabinet, under the sink. And we also asked her if she knew how to use it, and once again, she said not really, so that was the main reason she got, which she did the right thing. She got out of the house, and she had her phone with her. She was dialing 911.
So if she knew how the proper way to work a fire extinguisher, then it would have been located in a position where she could get to it if she needed it.
Absolutely right. Thanks again, Chief.
You're welcome.
When we return, we'll review our spot quiz on fire extinguishers.
Did you know that a typical fire extinguisher contains only 10 seconds of extinguishing power? That's why it's so important to know how to use it most effectively. Become familiar with the pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep system. And when you aim low towards the base of the fire. The natural instinct is to aim for the flames, but the proper way is to actually aim for the material fueling the fire. Fire needs fuel, oxygen, and heat in order to burn. Fire extinguishers remove one of these elements. Let's see how much you've learned about fire extinguishers. What are the 4 classes of fire, and why is that important to know? Fire extinguishers are built to handle specific class fires. Class A fires involve ordinary combustibles like wood, paper, and cloth. Class B fires involve flammable liquids like oils, greases, and paints. Class C fires involve electrical equipment that's plugged in. Class D fires involve combustible metals and are most likely found in industrial settings. Purchase an extinguisher that will put out the type of fire most likely to occur where the extinguisher will be located. Most home extinguishers are multi-purpose rated for A, B, and C fires. How many fire extinguishers do I need? Everyone should have at least one fire extinguisher at home. Because of the presence of combustible materials, fire protection experts recommend one for the kitchen, the garage, and the workshop. What's the best location for a fire extinguisher in your home? Hang fire extinguishers high enough from children, but within easy reach for adults. Also, locate them near an exit, never directly above a stove or anything else likely to catch fire. Also, never locate them between you and a potential fire source. If a small fire breaks out at home, grab the nearest fire extinguisher and then do what? First, have everyone leave the immediate area and call the fire department. Have your back to an exit so you're not trapped. Pull the pin or ring on the extinguisher. Aim down at the fuel. Squeeze the lever and sweep the fire with the nozzle like you would use a hose to wash dirt off a sidewalk. Do you need to involve the fire department if you have a small fire at home? Yes. Even if a fire appears to be out, it can reignite. Stand by until the fire department arrives and replace or recharge your fire extinguisher as soon as possible after you've used it.
So now you've seen the different types of devices out there that can alert you to the presence of a fire and help you bring it under control. We hope you'll consider purchasing them and learn how to use them properly to protect yourself and your home. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Spurlock, and those are today's Facts on Fire.